Hi everyone, it's 205. So I guess we get started with the 16 of you here. Okay, great. Before that, can I get a show of hands? How many of you actually want to come for a lab in the lab, or you want to continue as far as possible or online for this particular lab course? Because the argument is this lah. You can download your Apache Zeppelin. I think Yuting has tried and have some success on that. So maybe we can ask Yuting today to kind of share his experience. But if you can do that at home, I don't really want to keep you in the lab because of COVID risk. If you really like to come to the lab, take a look at what the server looks like. Let me know in one of the sessions we can have it in the lab. But I just want to get a show of hands, or maybe you can type in the chat box. You prefer this to be virtual or you prefer to come to the lab? Yeah, just let me know in the chat box. If just as a sign that you can hear me. Just if you don't mind to just type that out now in the chat box, it'd be great. Okay, Arina prefers virtual. Okay, Yuting also prefers virtual. Ryan also virtual. Okay, so it's Hongqi. So here I would go for just a majority lah. If anyone has objection, let me know lah. But this is good. Just keep typing. What's your preference? Liana also prefers virtual. Okay. Okay. Online. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got roughly half the class has responded. Thank you. Anyone else would like to weigh in on your preference? You want to ask face to face? Presumably we can still meet face to face. We have to schedule. If it's just a question, I actually prefer if we come on MS Teams lah to kind of mitigate the risk. Honchi, it's a great question. If you got questions, the best place actually is if you put it in our WhatsApp group, and then I might just call a session to get together and just answer the question lah, so everybody benefits lah. There are very few questions that are very personal in nature that you have to meet in person, I think. But if there's something like that, just let me know lah. Right? I mean, it's not precluded, but I don't know. I mean, university is kind of in a rush to get everybody face to face, but I think between all of us personally, we are still very aware of the risk lah. Omicron and Delta is still coming up, and Omicron is not really we're not out of the woods yet in Asia lah. If anything, we're probably just picking up lah. So if it's possible, I think the only reason UTP, the main reason lah that UTP wants to have face-to-face is maybe some students and their parents feel that they're not getting enough value or attention without the face-to-face lah. But if you're all okay with virtual, I am also okay to continue on the virtual mode, on the understanding that you really have to get the Apache Zeppelin on the Docker system running on your own system lah, on your own compute. And if you have problem with that, you really have to let me know in the next 1 to 2 weeks lah. Otherwise, it will be a bit hard to kind of do the assignments lah. I won't give you so many assignments because each assignment is a bit heavy. It's more programming than you're used to doing. So just a couple, but I want to see how far you've gone with the current one at the moment, which is a visualization, because it's the easiest. Just copy and paste code and you run it, and it's also testing your ability to set up your own system. So if you can let me know how you've done on it in this session, of course, it would be great. I want to just get a sense of who has actually tried to download Docker, number one, who has successfully downloaded Docker, who has tried to download the Docker version of Apache Zeppelin, and who has successfully run that. Process of copy paste actually get full errors. That's what I want to know lah. Like, this is the session. This is exactly the session where you open up your your thing and then we debug it together, right? Because usually the labs are organized 1 credit hour, 2 session because you're supposed to do the lab work in the lab lah. But here I don't really want to keep you so long here lah. So it's more of like, let's go and see what is your view. You share your screen view and then we just debug it straight away. Let me look at the error messages and we debug straight away. Okay, great. So Ryan and you think that means you have successfully installed Apache Zeppelin, is that right? You have actually been able to load it, run it on the Docker, is that right? Okay, that's good. So what I would request is if either one of you could very quickly share your screen now, okay? You just share your screen and show your classmates how you start things up, and then we'll go through and the code, and then we will debug it together, and then figure out what's wrong and how to get you moving on. Is that good?
Can then I will share my screen.
Okay, share your screen. Right. Then if you don't mind, you think you just give 2-3 minute. I'm putting you on the spot here. Let me know if you can do it. Don't feel shy. Just walk through, tell your classmates how you managed to install this lah, roughly where they go through and all that lah. Just so I let you have the floor, and then we go back to your Zeppelin. You copy the code. Let me look at the error messages and we debug. Is that okay?
I try my best because the download process I actually can't remember fully, so maybe later on others can back up.
I will supplement. No worries, you think I will supplement because you are younger, more handsome man, so you talk people more excited lah. I'm old guy already, so let me chip in. You're not alone lah. Let me chip in, but it's maybe more interesting if your friends also can hear from you lah, because they get the confidence that one of their classmates able to do it lah. Two actually, Ryan and you lah, but it so happens I pick on you, so Ryan gets away for this time, but maybe the next time we'll pass it to Ryan. Okay, thanks, Yuting. Over to you. Briefly, it doesn't have to be very long. You just show them what you did and how you set this up. Yeah. Okay, so everyone pay attention. This is from your classmate himself.
Yeah, okay, so at first I came, there's 2 links here, so actually this one I didn't try for this link because it's quite complicated. So I just go to the Docker link here, which is this one, and then we can see there's an install Docker here. So by just clicking here, you can follow the process to install the Docker lah. And then wait, I think I have to share full screen.
Yep, that's right. You have to share your terminal as well. Maybe you can kind of squeeze half of it and then the other half you have your terminal.
And
so
then
you're using a Windows system, is that right?
Yeah, yes. I'm using Windows system, and then that Docker desktop app will appear, and then after that you can wait. I think this one is quite slow. It takes some time.
Sure, no worries. I think everybody appreciates your sharing, so I don't think people mind if wait a minute or two lah for it to start up. I see you've got R installed as well. That's good.
So after open here, right? Suppose I forgot how it will be at first, but then.
Okay, you think let me take over for 1 minute here, and then I'll pass it back to you. All right. So what you have here is you have a history of all the containers that you've run, right? This will be blank when you just start Docker. That's why you got to go to the command line lah. But here you have the Docker tutorial, you have the repo, and you have the Zeppelin lah. And if you go ahead and press plus or stop will actually stop it lah. So if you press plus, then like for example here now it's taken you to the Docker container, the browser lah. The browser is actually positioning to okay, so what happening is this Zeppelin container is programmed to serve Apache Zeppelin software on the local host 8080, port 8080. All right, so meaning that once you have that running, if you go to your browser, any browser like Microsoft Edge, Chrome, it doesn't matter what browser you use. If you put localhost port 8080, it will call that, open this lah, and you can test it out. You can press the stop button on Zeppelin, and you go to the same browser, and you go to the same localhost address. Nothing will serve lah, because the Zeppelin container is basically serving. It's actually a Linux virtual machine lah, but it's not a virtual machine, it's a container, because I told you the difference between virtual machine and container is virtual machine, you replicate the entire file system, which includes the operating system. Container, you're actually running the operating system and then there are file systems sitting on top of that lah. So you don't replicate. Containers are smaller in size, they're a few hundred megabytes typically lah. This one small one, maybe about 100 or 50 megabytes lah. So Zeppelin actually is a Linux machine running a web service lah, and that web service is the Zeppelin software lah. So that is like Jupyter Notebook. You can actually program directly on your HTML browser, and that's great. And if, for example, you somehow manage to have your own laptop, you know, being a server, meaning that other computers can come and get your IP address and then go to port 8080, right? They will also see this Apache, this Zeppelin software, right? So if, for example, you can capture on your local network, the IP address of your computer, and your local network allows your computer to actually serve responses on that IP address, you will actually see the Apache Zeppelin on a second computer that has gone to your computer, meaning your computer, the IP address is actually the URL. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so you have to type this thing that you think put this, you have to type it in the command line. You think you can try to show them on the command line how it's done. But here what you've done is you double click on that, because once you run it, is in the memory already. You haven't actually gotten the Docker container out of it. So if your computer is slow, you can go ahead and press the stop button on the right side of your container. You see your Zeppelin on the right side of your container. If you were to close down this session, yeah, if you press the stop button, that's stopping the container. That means it will stop using the resources, but the container will still be loaded in memory. If you go and press the delete, then the thing's totally gone. You have to restart the container by using the command line. Yeah, you can actually try to delete it, but it'll be a bit of a pain. You have to go and restart on the command line again. But if you can show the classmates how to type it on the command line, they will see that you can also call up the container. Okay, you have a question, you think, or comment?
No.
Okay, please continue. Please continue. Sorry. One more thing I want to suggest to you. If you were to look at the Docker window on the top right side, just before the minimize window, there's a sign in there. That sign in, actually, you can create an account in what is called Docker Hub. So if you're familiar with GitHub, GitHub is a source version control, a freely available source version, open version control software that is available on the internet lah. So for Docker Hub, you are able to save your containers in Docker and freely available, which means that if you go on a different machine, okay, let's say you think has done some work on this Zeppelin and saved it and all that, right? And then you upload it to your Docker Hub, right? So you have to create an account in Docker Hub lah. And if you go to another machine, you can download exactly that same container, however you saved it, run it on that machine with the Docker, and it will run exactly the same, right? So this is a lovely thing about it, right? Because it allows you to actually like kind of set up the software and everything on a container, and then you save it in the Docker Hub, and then you go elsewhere, and then you just download from Docker Hub directly. You don't even have to carry a thumb drive, right? Right. So that's the lovely thing about Docker, and it's as if you're importing the whole machine, the whole computer with all the software all on it. Okay. All right. You think over to you. You can show your classmates how you start up Docker on the command line, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes. So like I said, I just remember just now. So after we download the Docker, right, inside here initially got nothing one. So we have to, like I put inside here, the second message, the long message here. This one is what we have to copy and then paste in the command prompt. So this one, maybe I can close.
So command prompt, everybody, you can just go to your Windows search bar, you type CMD. You type CMD, just the letter CMD, the command prompt will appear lah. You just click on that app lah.
Yeah, yes. And then so can copy this link and then paste inside here and then just enter. So it need quite a long time to quite a long time to run, like what Sir mentioned just now. So after you finish running the command prompt here, when you open back the Docker app, it will be like a Zeppelin here. Okay, for example, because I already run. So wait.
If you run it again, it's going to be faster lah. You think because you save the Docker the Docker image in your drive lah.
So actually the second link and the first link is the same, is it?
Okay, let me explain the difference between the two. Okay, let me go line by line. You can also check this up on the Docker, this one lah. Okay, so if you look at the first link, Docker run. Docker run is standard lah. That is the standard command that you are actually going to run a container on the system. Minus P 8080 to P8 to 8080. That's actually saying that you are doing a mapping of the port, because remember what we said, the container itself is like a own computer, and then you have the physical system, which is your laptop, right? So the port on the left is the port on your physical computer. The port on the right after the colon is the port on the virtual computer, the virtual container. So here you're just doing a mapping of port 8080 to port 8080, but here you can do interesting things, because let's say your Docker container is serving some HTTP on port 80, but you already have on your own server, you are open port 8080. So you can map port 8080 to port 80, so you can actually redirect the traffic from one port to another. So this is quite interesting. I've not 100% tried it, but in theory, it seems like, let's say on your network, you are not able to open a certain port. Let's say port 549 is open. Only port 8080 is open because HTTP. So your Docker is running a service that needs that particular port, right? Let's say 549 or something. So you can actually map 549 to port 8080. So whatever traffic on port 549 will go through port 8080 literally on your machine. Okay. So that's the mapping of the port, but typically what you do is you just map direct to direct lah, because we're not doing anything fancy at the moment. Dash dash RM means that after you have stopped and you remove your Docker, it will just unload from memory lah. Dash dash name, that gives you the name of the Docker container. Let's say you are actually running, there are two things that I had emphasized last time lah. I think you have your Docker container image, so that's a copy of the file system and everything in your Docker container. That's an image. Image is stored in Docker Hub. But that same image, you can have many instances. That means you can create 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 100 different Docker containers of the same image. A instance of a Docker container is basically like a running computer. It's like saying like you have maybe, I don't know, I'm old fashioned, so I know Asus computer. So Asus has maybe model 7Q something, right? But you can have many computers of that same model. So each instance is one computer of that same model. The image is like the model of that computer, something like that. Okay. So if you don't put anything, Docker is very cute. It will give you funny names for it lah, like laughing lion or something like that lah. But if you want to attach a name, then you put dash dash name. That's what it is. And the last one, Apache stroke Zeppelin 0.10.0. This is the name of the Docker container image stored in Docker Hub. So if you don't believe me, you go to Docker Hub, you go to the account Apache, you will see there is the Zeppelin 0.10, 0.10.0 kind of Docker image. That will be there. Okay. Sorry, everyone, just give me like 2 minutes. I got a call, I have to take it. Okay, sorry everyone, I had to take that lah. Okay, so you can see that, and sometimes you see after the name of the container there is a colon followed by some words or some number. That is the version number, because your container can have several versions. You can indicate that lah. So that's what the first part means. The second one is a little bit more involved, because if you see dash V, what dash V is doing a mapping of the directory in your local drive to the directory in your Docker container. This is a very nice way for you to, whatever you are saving in a Docker container, you actually will see it directly on the directory in your physical container. You don't have to log in and all that, right? So if there's any files, you can just read that directly. So what the second Docker container is doing two mappings. Is mapping the directory C Docker logs to the Linux directory in the container stroke logs. And it's also mapping the C Docker notebook directory in Windows to stroke notebook, the Linux directory in your Docker container lah. I'm not so familiar with dash E. I think dash E is setting up what you call system parameters lah in Linux in the Docker container. So system parameters, sometimes they have these names where they will put what are the directories of the notebook and that the software would need this lah. So here is actually setting the system parameter called Zeppelin underscore log underscore directory to the Linux location stroke logs, and is setting the Zeppelin underscore notebook underscore directory to the stroke notebook directory in Linux. The rest is the same, right? So you can see Zeppelin here. The version number is actually 0.10.0 because that comes after the colon. Is that helpful? Is that clear? So if you, okay, great. If you want to actually learn more about these options, the complete list of options is available in the Docker website lah. But Docker run is usually how we run the command. And as you can see, once you run the command, you can actually access the software on the web browser, because this particular container is basically serving the software to the web browser. It is actually running a it's like a HTML front end web service connected to a back end that's executing the Zeppelin lah. It's a bit complicated lah, but this is the latest technology. You don't actually have to install IDE. You don't have to actually install like a program like PyCharm or something that on your local PC. Now you can actually just run everything from the browser lah. The code can also be executed directly in the browser nowadays already, right? For Python, for R, for Apache Spark. Okay, you think, sorry, please go ahead. I think you're doing well.
Yeah, okay. So like I said just now, after download Docker, and then you have to go to command prompt and then copy the second one, and then just paste and download. The first time will be take a long time, and then after the first time, after you close, the second time when you want to like run again the Zeppelin, you just have to copy from this, and it will take like a short time to run the Zeppelin. So after you run in command prompt, so just have to go to here. There's two ways lah to open the notebook, which is to open the notebook. So the first way is you can go to the Zeppelin here, and then here got open in browser. Can just click here, and you open here. This is a notebook here, or the link I shared. Docker host this my friend as well. So let's paste this Zeppelin notebook here. So I think until here we actually can start. So we can create a new node here. So from here you can see there is Spark and R. You can hear or lagging.
Yep, you're lagging a little bit. You think maybe just wait 30 seconds to a minute, let the system catch up a bit lah. Or maybe you unshare and then reshare a screen. You're doing great so far. This looks like the Zeppelin screen. Yeah.
Okay, can right.
You think you can try again? I can see your screen. We try again. I understand maybe your internet might not be ideal lah, but it was okay for most part lah. It's not ideal lah. Yeah, we try.
You can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so just now stop until command prompt, is it?
You stop until able to show the Zeppelin window. I caught up to there, and then you were going to show how you create the new notebook, whether you're selecting the Spark or the R interpreter lah. So maybe you can start from there lah.
Okay, so actually just very easy. You can just create new node here, and then you can select, if you want to go to Spark, you just select Spark, and the R is located below here.
Okay, so
So
you
for
selected
example,
R.
R,
You selected for
and then just
visualization.
create.
R.
Then we can type our command here. So there is a way for you to save your node, because last time I don't know how to save, but now I realized that we can export the node here.
Correct.
After export, you can actually import. So for example, let me again. So if you want to access back the last work you did, you can import here, and then this is the one I did last time, so it will appear here. So
Okay,
you can just click on this,
I
and then
stop you a little bit. You think I stop you a little bit? If you can choose your directory where you export this, the best is, you've seen, I told you there was a mapping of your C drive to the Linux drive, right? So here, since this Zeppelin is running on your Linux on the container, it's going to follow /notebook lah. So if you were to store your notebook in /notebook, you can go to the cprom docker /notebook. That particular notebook code will be stored there. You got me?
how do we store it then?
Okay. Can you go to the export or save save this notebook? Can you choose the path?
We cannot. After I click, it will direct save into my computer
Okay.
without
Then
asking me to choose the path.
I see. So the path actually, if you were to explore, you go to anonymous. Sorry, you go to under anonymous. There's the settings bar next to the log. If you click the settings, I believe there is a save directory there. You know the three-prong screw. So you see default. Then on the left there's a lock, and then there's a screw. No, it's still in the browser window. It's still in the browser window. You think?
Okay, I have to click on which one?
So there is the settings icon lah. So you explore that, and then you make sure you explore under the R interpreter lah. Or there could be a default setting, and you ensure that you are not using the Windows directory, you're using the Linux directory, I mean /notebook, right? Then I believe you're able to save it. If not, also if you go to the home screen, you can actually see the list of your Zeppelin notebooks saved there lah. Because this is the advantage of actually doing a mapping of your real OS, your Windows directory to the Linux container directory, because whatever you save, you can just extract it directly if you go to that directory lah, like on your local machine lah. Because now it's actually saving in its default location. Left to the log.
But I think it will appear this one, is it?
Sorry, your screen is a bit lagging. Not sure it's able to see that yet lah. Okay, maybe you think we explore that a little bit later lah. Let's, because it's a bit lagging. Let's just go through your issue lah. So it looks like you're using the R interpreter. You're able to do some basic you're setting up a data lah. You're setting up an array. Then you're able to actually interact with that. You're able to do some basic R commands lah. Where are you having the problem? Most likely in the libraries, I think.
Okay, let me show. But I think maybe I share only the window will be better instead of whole screen.
Okay, you can try. You can try, see if it's improved or not.
So can you all see the screen?
No. it like black?
I try to connect using my data. See, is it better? Okay. Can you all see the screen now?
Still black.
Still
Ayo. Yeah, or maybe Roy can share.
no
Okay.
can.
Okay, you can see your screen already.
Okay, already. Okay. So, this one is actually what I did following the slide. The slide is this one. The visualization of R.
Correct.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. So for this, I can run, and then this also can. But this is the plotting where we do the plot and the histogram. But until here, starting onward, I keep getting error.
Okay, what is here? What is the word here? Because the screen is lagging. Just tell me which part of the visualization work you're not able to replicate. Because most likely, if you can do all of the above the earlier one, what's happening is some of the later visualization they require you to install certain additional libraries lah, right? You have to you understand libraries, right? They are like sort of like API that have to be there lah. So there is some code that you can add for it to install locally lah. I guess are you able to do the scatter plot?
Scatter plot. I only did line plot and histogram.
Okay, like this okay. So you look at this scatter plot this part here lah, this part here, the install packages and load packages, this is actually the library lah. So this part here you have to check it out lah, the options, are you able to install and load this particular scatter plot library lah. Okay, so this is the one that's calling the library, but I'm not exactly sure here the instructions for library is there. Okay, here it is like this is the package ggalt, right? So for scatter plot with and circling, you need to basically install this package lah. But here there's no instructions for actually installing this package. So in R, a library is called package lah. So the equivalent to it is like in C++, you have so I guess you're familiar with C++, right? In C++, you have this like include, right? You have include math.h, right? The header files, right? Because the header files is definition of library. In Python, you will have import matplot. You may have import numpy as np, right? This is in Python, right? So in R, there is also equivalent code for you to install library. So here, the library name is math.h or the library name is numpy. Okay, here the library name is actually ggalt lah. So you can just quickly Google R install package. Go for command line, right? Because it's actually running a command line. So the command is install.packages with the package name lah. So this one this is the package description and help lah. This one, right? Install.packages bracket inverted comma, then ggalt is the name of the package, right? So you have to run that before you run all these codes, because this is the one lah. This is the one that is a hash here, because it's just giving you a instruction that you have to install this package already, because it's calling on this package, right? This library ggalt is actually saying we are referencing functions from the ggalt package, right? But this is not installing. This is just telling R to go look for this package already pre-installed. And the reason this was put here by the person who developed this is because different system will have different ways of installing the packages lah. Let's say you were to install RStudio on your local computer, you can actually just go up to the GUI and use the GUI to actually install package. But all R systems, you can also install the package using the command line, which is basically this single command, right? You will actually, and then this will actually tell you the location it installed. And bear in mind, this location is the location of your container, your Linux Docker container, right? So if you terminate or delete this container, that installation will be gone already. So if you were to use the command line to call this again, it will actually reference the image of the container from GitHub, not this modified container, because once you install a package, you're modifying the container already, right? So you have to be very, very clear and careful about this lah. That's why when you're running the container, maybe sometimes you've installed all the packages, you want to save a version on it on your own Docker Hub, so that you know this one has already saved all those libraries lah. So this is the first point that is good to now inform you that when you are actually running all this code, you have to know dependencies lah. This is it an inbuilt function in R, or you have to install a package, additional library lah. Okay, is that okay? You think so? So you're not able to run those some of those commands in R because you have not installed those libraries. You got it?
Yes.
And the way to install library is quite straightforward under this lah. If you can actually just have another Jupyter window before that, you just run the install command first and it should be fine. Okay, you try that out. It may take a little while depending on your connection lah, but that should solve the problem. Okay. Okay, any other problems?
Wait, I share my screen again.
Okay, sure.
Is it appearing my screen?
Yes, I can see it now.
This one is not related to the library, but it's also getting error, but I don't understand the error meaning.
Okay, you paste ABC. Can you scroll up? Can you scroll up? This is R, is it? I'm a little scroll.
This is R.
Not scroll down, scroll up, because here it's actually saying there's an error with because here on the top here, your R, you're able to use the arrow command. So you are actually storing a character array lah. I think the C actually mentioned is a character array. Okay, then you go down, you scroll down. So there's an error in why you are actually, okay, you scroll down some more, scroll down. Okay, stop. Right. Paste, concatenate the strings. Okay, I think most likely the way the paste function is used is incorrect lah. Let me Google the paste function lah and see. Paste function. Okay. Okay, the first step I would do to ask you to debug this, okay? You open a new window just above this lah. Just open a new command window just above. No, not that. In the same Zeppelin folder, the same Zeppelin tab, the same Zeppelin tab. The same Zeppelin tab. You just open a window just before. Okay, right. You just type paste ABC and SE, and then just run it and see. So don't assign to any variable. Just run. You're just pasting two together just to see it works or not. Okay, you have double paste there. Okay, then you execute it. Okay, so paste function is not found lah, in this version lah. So there are a few things to check lah. Number one, to check whether paste is dependent on any other library or not. And that's one thing to check lah. And then number two, you check whether paste is defined in the version that you have or not lah. Because we have to check whether this paste is base version 3.6.2. So you can actually Google paste function in R not working. You can Google that. Yeah, most likely, you think I'm not so familiar with the paste function, but most likely, you have to check your data types within the paste function. Okay, so this is paste in R. Okay, I'm looking at the same side. You check your data types, maybe you put a number or something like that. You just want to get the paste to run. The first thing is you determine whether this paste function, is it not running because it's a new function to R and you don't have the right version, or is is a function that you need to include a library lah. But from my understanding, it doesn't need to include a library lah. Most likely what happens is maybe the value inside paste itself is incorrect lah. The data type lah. Or you can also try paste 0 and see if that runs lah. So let's see, paste file number. Yeah, by right it should run. Okay, can you go all the way to the top, to the first R window? Okay, and can you type the paste function there, just at the bottom of all the mean standard? You just put paste 1,2 lah. And then just run that and see. Okay, then you put paste inverted comma 1 and 2 lah. You put the 1 and 2 in inverted commas. So now that means you're setting them to be character. Try and rerun that.
Still getting error.
Same problem. Put a semicolon at the end of the paste.
But now it shows the code above having problem.
Yes,
after I add the
yes.
space.
So sometimes I find lah, Zeppelin can be a bit buggy kind of thing lah. Most likely lah. Okay, the last test you can do is you can open up R, the R Studio on your local computer. You have that installed already, right? You see, you can run the paste command. If you can run the paste command, meaning that the library for paste in this Zeppelin installation is corrupted lah. Because that's why it's saying that it's missing a semicolon somewhere, right? So maybe you very quickly open your R Studio on the local machine, and then you just try the paste. If it's working there, then yeah, that's right. So you just type paste ABC123 lah. Sorry, with the inverted commas, because I think this is a concatenation for text. Or just 1 and 2 lah with the inverted commas. Double inverted better. Okay, press enter. Okay, great. Something wrong with Zeppelin, the paste library. So I don't have a fix for that because this is a problem with open source code, meaning that you have to find an alternative function to concatenate instead of paste lah. All right. Is that okay, you think?
Yes, understand.
Right. So
Paste is actually print, is it?
Paste is actually?
Print. Same like print function, is it?
No, it's concatenate. Is adding, is actually appending the two arrays together to one lah, right? It's not print. The thing about R is everything that you do, the result will just be repeated at the bottom lah. It's like MATLAB like that lah. Okay, but paste is basically if the word is concatenating lah. You are bringing one the second string, you're putting it after the first string lah, right? And there's a space in between, right? That's what it's doing. It's doing a concatenation. So paste is probably a low-level function lah. So I don't think you can use paste in this particular notebook lah. So you might, if you want to investigate this problem further, you might actually type Zeppelin 0.10.0 paste lah, and then you see if somebody complains about this lah.
But now even I run back also getting error already for the previous one.
Have you removed the paste?
Yeah. Even the second window also getting error.
Okay, this one most likely interpreter problem lah, to reset lah. Okay, if you scroll all the way up, we have to go to the interpreter window. Let's see. You try to reload the file again and see. Don't move it to trash. Move it to trash, you have to retype everything again lah. That will work lah. But you just do the reload the file, the recycle button lah. Right.
Still getting error.
Okay, you go. Okay, now the thing is, you have the global settings, and locally for each window you also have, you see the play button, then you also to the right there's a screw button lah. Sorry, a nut button. That's the settings. Click on that one. No, on the window next to the arrow button, that there's a play setting. This one, yes, that one. Okay, clear output, and you press play and see. Run this paragraph. Error. Now you go up there to the global settings. Interpreter binding, yeah. Oh, you've bound Spark to this. This is running a Spark interpreter for this. Tak boleh lah. So you have to actually select the R interpreter, not the Spark interpreter lah. So you go to the interpreter menu, you remove Spark, you add R. Because Spark can also run with R, you just go all the way down to R lah. All these are the list of interpreters. They are all the different kind of softwares that can run in that can be executed in Zeppelin. So you have to check your interpreter. Your interpreter, if you are working on R, you should choose the R interpreter. Yeah, this one. What you can do is, you see the top there is this hash and R. The percent sign and R, you can run that just before the code, or you can click on connect to existing process lah. Because you want because when you start a new notebook, there's an interpreter associated with notebook lah, a default interpreter. Sometimes you can suspect add more than one lah. I would try that percent sign R you add to the top of the code and see if that works or not lah. Because I think what's happening is maybe it's suddenly swapped that module is swapped to use the Spark interpreter to execute lah. So you're trying to run R on the Spark interpreter, so it doesn't work lah. So you can actually go back to your notebook. You click on notebook all the way on the top. Yes. Then just before that you put the percent sign R. Then you put enter. Yeah, you try and run and see. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you can try to put the paste and see whether it works or not. ABC 1 2 3 lah. 1 2, okay.
Oh, now can already.
Okay, there we go. So what was the issue was previously when you did that, it was using the Spark interpreter all the time. So I guess the Spark interpreter, maybe you can interpret Spark R and all that lah. But when you have in doubt, you have to make sure each window is associated with the correct interpreter lah. So here you're doing pure R. Make sure it's with the R interpreter lah. Okay. There you see it's okay already, right? So this gives you that, this is the thing lah. If you're having a lot of if you're having a lot of different, the strength of Zeppelin is also something you have to watch out for lah. If you have a lot of different if you're actually running code from a lot of different software lah on the Zeppelin, then you have to ensure that is the right interpreter running lah. So at this point, I'm only asking you to focus on R and Spark later on, but I'd like you to get familiarized with using R first lah, right? Then later on we'll change to Spark, and you can directly use the syntax from the book that I've shared with you on uLearn. Okay, you can actually start playing around with Spark already, actually, because now you got these two. You just ensure it's a Spark interpreter. All right. Okay. We've got about 4 minutes left. So you think this is all the issues you have, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I
maybe
think Roy tried on installing. He say in the chat box, he say he still face problem after installing.
Yeah. So Roy, do you want to just share what is your challenge with the installation? So maybe in the last 2-3 minutes we can try to address that, and then maybe I'll meet you next week. Hopefully you will have installed, gone through it, and there's a recording of this. You can check back how you think has done it. Right? If he can also share the best practices. Okay, Roy, what's the issue with the installation? Where are you having the challenge?
Sir, for the installation, like let's say I install GGALT, right? You have
Yes.
to download in the Zeppelin, right? You have to install in the Zeppelin form, right?
Okay, that's a great question, Roy. If you are actually developing and deploying these, you should actually install it at the Docker file stage lah, when you are actually composing the Docker container. But I'm not teaching you how to do that yet. That one maybe in lab 3 you'll see a preview of how to write Docker files, where you can actually give the command what libraries to install in advance when you're setting up the container. Now, since your main interface is the Zeppelin, you can also install it by command line on the Zeppelin lah, because the way you're assembling the Docker is you're just downloading it directly from the Apache Zeppelin site. But if you were to dig around a little bit, there is something called a Docker file, which is saying that you are actually installing with instructions. It's like, let's say I ask you to install Linux, right? So when the Docker file is actually nothing else but that, it's actually saying that you install Linux first, then you install this library, then you install R, then you install Apache Spark, then you install Zeppelin, then you install the R library, all that. So Docker file allows you to give this instruction so you can create a customized container. That will be the best way to install the R library lah. If you're interested, you can go ahead. But the fastest, simplest way for the rest of the class is you just put it in the box lah, like just now. It's a command line, you're right, except that it's now very pretty lah. It's a nice box in the browser window lah, but it's really a command line command, right? So you're right, but I'm just letting you know that it's a better way to do it lah, because that one is more persistent. All right? Does that help?
So that means Docker, for let's say download, install package, you have to go to the command prompt. Let me share screen. All right. Okay, let's say, sir. Okay, let's say I want to download, let's say I want to say download install dot package.
Oh, no, install.package is not here. Okay,
Oh.
now you open your Zeppelin. If you're using the install.z package, you have to put it in the Zeppelin.
Yeah, but I put with it, but it's still same error.
Let's see. Install package. No, there's no dash package.
Yeah, but in the Word they mention yes, dot package. Maybe.
Okay. I see. There's a dash package lah.
Yeah.
Okay. In this case, most likely the package server has not been set up on your Zeppelin lah, because when you type these install packages, the software will need to know where to look for it lah, which server lah. So we actually have to go down just now. If you go to the settings, so if you minimize it, just now the settings where we saw the interpreter settings, yeah, that's the one on the top left.
Okay, interpreter.
You double click on R, go all the way to R. The interpreter itself got settings on lah. So one of that most likely will be the package installation path. You have to update that to where is the typical R path lah. The R path because when you install the package, they will also tell you these are the common servers lah. So you have to update that. So if you go down, image, somewhere around here lah, there will be a package thing lah. Package or proxy, okay, tak ada .
only got this connect to and set permission.
Okay, so then I have to look up Zeppelin R package, install R packages. So I'm googling Zeppelin install R packages lah. Okay, so here if you were to just check Zeppelin R interpreter for Zeppelin packages. Okay, install additional libraries. Plus DevTools. Alright. Okay. Alright, macam ni lah everybody. Okay, this latest version of Zeppelin, it seems to require for you to install like R and all the packages on your machine first before you call the Docker, and then you will point the Docker to the appropriate location lah. That was a little bit of a challenge because I didn't see the R path when Yuting put it up lah. But maybe you can try to look at this first. Then maybe next week I'll look at it a little bit better the problem and try to figure out what is the best way to help you out with that lah. But this is the site, but this is for Zeppelin 6. We have to try to find this for Zeppelin 10. Install R packages in Zeppelin 0.10.0. Okay. 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 So this is, so you always have to check that you've got this. I copy this. How to export in the configuration. So packages. All right. Visualize your plots. You need R on your Zeppelin server node. So this is asking you to check on the server node lah. Okay, this is an interpreter. So this is the R interpreter. Okay, this one you ran just now lah. That's the percent sign R. That was how you ran just now. Okay. Where is the packages? Okay, you think you installed R before you installed the Zeppelin Docker, right? Roy?
I think I didn't install.
You didn't Roy, you didn't install R at all lah.
No sir. Just what I follow like the same tactic method like you think did.
Okay. Then maybe I will put this for you to try out. Then give me a little bit of time to look up this problem lah. So the latest version is actually 0.10.0. So anything that is 0.6.0, that very old already lah. I used that 2 years ago lah. So 0.10.0 is the latest version lah. As far as I can tell, I mean, I don't know, maybe in the next few months it will come out with a newer version, but we all stick to 0.10.0. That will be easy lah. Okay, so I've just shared with you the link. You can try to play around it, but I suspect the problem is this lah. Number one, we actually have to identify where is the R installed lah. So in this case, since you're running the Docker without pointing it to a local Spark directory, local R directory, so it's probably installed in the Jupyter, in the command, in the container itself lah. Now the Zeppelin container can actually run command line commands. That means basic Linux commands you can actually run on Zeppelin. So you might want to use those basic Linux command to run these lah. That means r-e install packages, because what is this? This that I'm showing you here, this one here, this is actually a Linux command. This is a Linux command calling the software R, but you're not starting it up. You are just using R to actually install these packages lah. So if you use a combination of Zeppelin command line, So you're not using an interpreter for R or Spark, but you're actually finding out how to run commands on Linux with Zeppelin. You can actually run this within Zeppelin itself. But like, as I mentioned, let me look into this a little bit more and figure out what would be the best way for next week. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All
So
right. Yeah.
I have another question.
Sure.
Is that because last time I did my Zeppelin, and then because just now I said I export my node, right?
Yeah.
So at first I choose interpreter R, and then after I done I export. But then when I import again, the interpreter will automatically become Spark.
Yeah. Roy, I want you to try something else. When you put the install packages, can you put the %sign R first to just ensure that you're using the correct interpreter for install package? Can you try that?
Yes.
So yeah, because Zeppelin actually was created for deep integration with Spark lah. That's why I'm using it as the framework for your programming rather than Jupyter Notebook. And R is actually added because the R is also integrated with Spark, and R is very popular. But the last I tried it some years ago, it was still a bit buggy. I hope that this point it was a little bit more stable lah. So I think what is coming to mind with your experience is you have to really check lah every time you come a new notebook. Is the interpreter, is it actually Spark or is it R lah? Right? So you have to be very sure of the interpreter lah. Okay, Roy, you had any success if you
No,
actually
sir, still same. Still same.
still same, huh? Okay,
Yeah.
so let me debug this and I'll get back to you by next week lah. Is that okay? You can also debug it lah, but it's likely to be the interpreted stuff lah. Is either number one interpreter, most likely is the interpreter thing lah. That's why it's not able to recognize that install packages command lah, and I have to validate in R itself whether yeah, I have to validate this lah. It should work in R lah. Okay. Yeah, so I have no answer for you now, but I can point you to this if you want to debug a little bit more. If not, then do wait for me to find out how to fix this by next week lah. But the rest of you can just go ahead and start and retrace the steps for Roy and you think they're able to get this up and running already. Maybe you can talk to them also to check their experiences. It didn't sound too painful lah. So I think it's not really a complete deal breaker because some of it can be already run lah. But we just have to now ensure that we got the correct interpreter and we're able to get the libraries in. All right, that's the issue with the system now. Okay. All right. Okay, so any other questions? I probably will need to call off the class now already. So you got any final questions before we go? And then I'll meet you next week lah, on Thursday.
Sir,
Okay.
actually I have a question regarding the assignment.
Sure.
Okay. Actually, when I open the GitHub that you shared with us, it has
Yep.
so many CSV and files. So how do we know which one that we should take?
Okay, good.
Okay. Thank
Hannah,
you.
I'm probably one of the first lecturers you will encounter that will start to challenge you on thinking outside the box lah, moving you away from very, very guided, this one. Okay, so I throw you the first question lah. You see now what you're seeing is the real data scientist problem. That is, I give you all the data, you're like, I don't know where to start. So the first place to start is to understand what is contained within each file lah. That they're not that big, the files. So take a look at it, open each of the files, and then look at what are the entries listed and try to understand briefly lah, what is the information contained in this file. Then the second, you go back to the question that I put out to you. Right, the question is, I've got 4 of these questions. I want to know locations with the most number of COVID cases. Then you ask yourself, which of these CSV files would contain information related to this? And the second, I ask you hospital resources. So what are hospital resources? Right? Think about it lah. What is resources? Is it hospital beds? Is it number of oxygen? Then state, right? Then I ask you how it changed over time. So then that's the question of you going to each file and trying to find out and match the two, because each file has a descriptor, and you can also look at the file, the contents itself. And you go to 2, 3, and 4, all that lah. This assignment is actually simulating. Sorry, I'm sharing a screen here. So you go here, you just check what is the question, and you also go to the MOH side, and here, for example, open the data, right? So the cases and testing. So this is an example of all the data that's provided, right? So if you look at all this, yeah, don't look at this lah. This has more lah. The notebooks here are Jupyter notebooks. They are actually code, other things, right? But the standard data is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. There are 15 files with the data. And then you see here, it's got the description here, but they're also not that big. You can go in and look at this CSV file. There are many of these, but they all have the same format, right? So you can just look, okay, this one is, sorry, this is the file itself, right? Date, state, number of check-ins, unique ID, unique location, right? So you can go, you can just spend some time reading all of these to figure out what is it, because it's actually explaining to you what all this means. And then you start looking at the question, you ask yourself, for question 1, which of these would contain the information that I need, and how do I display that? Because I'm simulating 2 real cases for data science engineer here. Number 1, nobody's going to tell you how to answer the question and plot which file to plot the data, because if they could tell you that, they don't need to pay you for a job already, right? So it's simulating number 1, that at least you must get used to the idea that you must understand what's in your data. You cannot just like blindly plot numbers and all that, right? Is your data actually going to answer your question? Number 1. Number 2, the second important point is the data scientist that's able to connect relationships between more of the data, right? So the obvious one would be, if I want to actually look at it, the obvious one, gosh, this sometimes this screen is very annoying. Okay, the obvious one, like say, how has hospital resources changed over time by state, right? So the obvious one to plot, let's say for here, would be you plot the number of hospital beds usage versus state. So you plot that, you already get some marks. But you may not actually get an A, you may actually get an A minus, because I'm reserving the A for those who can actually give me more insight into this. So that will be someone who maybe not just plot the hospital bed, but also plot the number of infections, right? How does that correlate? So the number of infections together with hospital bed, if they are perfectly linear, means that less infection, less bed lah. But that may not be the case. You can actually see an increase in the number of infections, but the serious cases reduce. So hospital beds is reduced, but the not serious cases increase, right? So this is that second scenario where I'm looking for your creativity. Don't lose bendo sangat, because data scientists need to have that extra touch, right, to be able to connect all of these data sources and display them, right? But you're not going to fail if you show me the hospital resources. If you just directly answer the question, not going to fail. You're going to get a decent mark, but it's not going to be the highest mark, because I'm simulating this assignment. Beyond that, how do you actually present this information so that you can really give insight into this question? Is that helpful, Hannah?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Another question.
Sure, go ahead.
Let's say for question 1, for every question, do we need to combine the CSV, or is it only one CSV? It's just a hint.
Normally when I put the question,
Yes.
my estimate is like B plus. You will just take from one CSV, you plot it out. I get the visualization, it looks good. I get all the numbers visualized nicely. You get about a B or B plus lah. If you start combining more than one CSV and you're able to explain nicely why you are relating this, that will be in the A minus A range lah, right? It's not necessarily the case. It's very open-ended, this question. It's real problem-based learning. I don't also have the answer of what would be the best way to do it. All I can tell, right, is that I know what is the standard way of doing it lah. The standard way is hospital resource. You just plot number of beds over time by state, right? You just find the best, and then you get maybe B plus or A minus, depending on how well you did the visualization, right? Because this is changing over time, right? So if you just give me for one particular day or one particular week, you know, then I will reduce a bit of marks, so B plus or B. But if you did something else like hospital demand, you correlate it with maybe number of check-ins, or you actually show that there's a relationship graphically visualizing, because this is the power of visualization. You show that there's a relationship with the number of MySejahtera check-ins, or you show that there's a relationship between the number of severe cases, then the marks go up lah. But I cannot a priori tell you is together with this lah, because this is the whole idea of problem-based learning. The more you surprise me with an insight, the higher the marks will be lah. You follow what I'm saying, but you're not going to fail lah, right? Because if you get a good visualization, you're going to be about a B plus lah, which is okay lah, 75 out of 100, there around things, right? Because that's like standard, you know, just take instructions, you plot it out lah. I reserve the A's for those who really go above and have demonstrated they can actually kind of really excel at showing this problem, right? So it's open. Right, I cannot tell you, okay, if you did this 2 or 3 or 4 lah, right? Because you can also just plot for me all the data from all the files, and then you just plot and you just put the title, right? So that will be an example of saying that if you take 2 files, right, but there's no insight, right? Why are you showing me all this data? And in visualization, you don't really want to show all the data. You want to show all the data that's relevant, that gives insight. Okay, Hannah, so I cannot say you take from more than 2 sites and you display is fine, because it depends on how you do it. If they are related, you can build a case like, oh, this is related because of this, you will get more marks. If they're not related, like suddenly you plot for me just the number of hospital beds and the number of admissions, but then you don't really make a point like what is the insight here, then if I don't understand, then it might be the same lah, B plus like that lah. Okay, Hannah?
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I do need to go already. So if anything else, you just put on the WhatsApp, okay? Okay, I'll see all of you next week then. All right, just make sure you set up your platform and we'll sort out the R library by next week. Okay. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
Have a good day, sir.
You too.